Hello and welcome to the next episode of The Conscious Female Founder. I am Sally Tarbox. I am the owner of podcast and YouTube. I am also the proud owner of the Empowerment Movement, where I coach other entrepreneurs to increase income streams within their business through passive income. And I'm super excited to be sat down here today with a very good friend of mine, Fiona Green. She is an absolutely fantastic copywriter. She is a woman of amazing words. She helps other brand owners sell their brand through soulful selling. I am so happy to be sat here with you. It's such an honor. You are amazing. I look up to you highly. So thank you so much for joining me, Fiona. Thank you so much.
Thanks for asking me.
That's all right. I want you to obviously introduce yourself a little bit and a little bit of your backstory of who you are, where you've come from, and how you found yourself in this position, because you're now writing for coaches and business owners of 6- and 7-figure businesses and helping them to really expand their business. So the stage is yours, my darling. Go for it. Introduce yourself.
Thank you. So I'm Fiona Green, and I own a brand copywriting agency called The Creative Copywriter. This started November, probably about 4 years ago now. After lockdown, cast us minds back, I'm sure we can all remember.
Oh, yeah.
I just had my little baby, who is coming up to 4.5 now. And he's my first and only child. And it was a catalytic event, to say, put it mildly. I'm sure we might delve into it in a bit more.
Yeah, of course.
But it created... Essentially, I had a breakdown. I had postnatal depression. I think there was a lot of things prior to that over the years that I've been building and building.
Yeah.
That was almost just the straw that broke the camel's back kind of thing. And I just realized that I was living a life where I was just, kind of plodding on and following, doing whatever you're supposed to do. Like,
Yes.
got married, I'd had the kid, I'd been to uni, I'd got a master's. I used to be a curator of art. Like, I was doing I had my house, I was doing the things.
Doing the
I
thing.
wasn't really living, and I didn't really feel like I knew myself anymore. And I just couldn't recognize myself as a person anymore when I looked in the mirror. That's a really scary thing. Like, when you wake up one day and you look at yourself and you just think,
I don't even know who I am.
I just don't know who I am or what I want or where life is going. And there's just something missing, and I didn't know what it was, and I didn't know what I should be doing or what life should look like, but I just knew that wasn't it. So I kind of packed up, left my job, left my husband, took 6-week-old Ted. I went to go live at my mum's for a little bit because it was in lockdown, and had to slowly kind of piece my mental health back together.
Yeah.
Do a lot of work on that. And I was lucky, because I was living with my mum, I was able to have a bit of financial space to do that. I got paid out from my curator job as well, because as much as I wanted to leave, they were looking at redundancies anyway because of the COVID and everything. So I was able to get a little bit of a payout. So I had this space, which a lot of people our age don't get.
Yeah.
That time out from work, but they don't have as much financial responsibilities or burdens. And obviously I did have a 6-year-old, but I was still kind of building a relationship with him as well. And, my mum was just incredible at the time, because she was really supportive and was obviously there to pick up the pieces of mother that I couldn't quite manage at that time. At the same time, allowing me to kind of meditate and journal and work out which tools and resources work for me to slowly build my mental health back up. And as that was going, I met a friend who is in the online world. She was a life coach. And we were friends at high school. We reconnected on Facebook because I'd come off Facebook. I wasn't on there. I'd not been on there for years. And she just asked me to write some stuff for a business, like as a little side job thing. And I was like, oh, that's something I can definitely do. I'm a really good writer. Like, my degree was in English. My master's was all around storytelling within museums and galleries. It was like kind of fit. And I started doing it and just, I suppose, fell into it, but kind of realized, oh, this is a job. But I was introduced to a whole new world. Like, the online world for me used to be my Asda shop, line, a bit of Amazon for Christmas presents, Facebook. Like I said, I wasn't really on Facebook. I kind of did Twitter a bit, but I wasn't a massive social media person. But any social media was very much just like checking in what my friends are up to and that kind of stuff. she opened up this entire world that I didn't know existed.
Yeah.
And of online businesses, of online entrepreneurs, and that you can create a business that you want and that you have control over, and it can all be online, and you can work from home, and you can work it around a child, and you can do whatever it is that you want to do. And I was like, oh, this is interesting. Didn't know this was a thing, because you just don't. You only know
You
what
don't know. It's like what they say, you don't know what you don't know.
Exactly. So I just kind of started, I trained specifically to become an accredited copywriter, just because I'm one of those girls that likes the certificates,
Like the,
the
I get it.
qualifications and things
Yeah.
like that. And I just started building it, and I got a Facebook group, and I just started chatting with people. I just started talking about storytelling. I joined a networking group, which I think was really pivotal because at the time I was still having a bit of anxiety and stuff, and I didn't really want to meet new people, but obviously I was trying to establish a business. And this particular networking group, they had online sessions, but they also had regional groups, so you could go in person.
Yeah.
I remember going one day, it must have been summer, because I was looking at the pictures the other day, and it was like red hot sunshine.
Oh, lovely.
Two of the women who I met there, I still like talk to all the time, and like we
Wow.
voice note kind of like,
Yeah.
business things and
Yeah.
all that kind of stuff. And but meeting those women and just kind of talking about my story,
Yeah.
talking about the business I was setting up, and seeing where they were at in the businesses that they'd set up and the things that they were doing. It was as scary as it was at the time. It was like that was just a real kind of changing moment, I think, where I really kind of jumped in full throttle, even though I was really scared about it. And they helped me and supported me, encouraged me, and then that network of women started
Grew.
expanding and growing. And honestly, like I just think that is the best thing that
Yeah.
you can have, is a tribe. And there'll always be people that you meet and you think, okay, well, I've learned this from you, but you're not hugely my type of person or whatever. And
Yeah.
you might be acquaintances rather than friends, but I've
Yeah.
met people I've become super, super firm friends with. I mean, Sal is an example. Like we did Fox TV News
We
Women of
do.
Influence over a year ago now. And so we only met each other like once in
Yeah.
person, but in America, like halfway across the world, going through
Yeah.
huge kind of like not just career changing, but life
Life
changing
changing.
moment,
Yeah.
and bonded. And ever since then have continued to be friends. And we
Yeah.
haven't actually met up again in person, which I would like to do. We will do.
Yeah. We will
But
do this. Don't worry.
we'll do this. But just that knowing of someone who you can be really yourself with, who you can
Yeah.
talk to, who you can share your fears with, and who understand. Because I still do have good friends who are from high school and things like that, but they don't get it. They don't get this, because I didn't even know this was,
Yes. It's really
they
hard to
just
understand
don't
it.
get like either the kind of stresses of being self-employed in general,
Mm-hmm.
but then also the things that come with working with online clients,
Yeah.
growing your business, doing all of the things yourself, not just delivering the service or the coaching or whatever it might be, but doing the social media and the admin and the
Yeah.
bookkeeping and
Yeah.
every single little part of it. Obviously, as you grow, you can hopefully have enough money to employ staff and stuff, but it's
At the
not
beginning, you have to do it all.
exactly, and it's really stressful. And while you're trying to, and when you create that to make a life that fits around your child.
Yeah.
There are times where I think, oh my God, am I really actually spending the time that I want? Or am I so laser focused on
Yeah.
building this business? And it's a real struggle balancing act.
It is. It definitely is, and I think, and it's tricky, isn't it? Because, and I think that's probably where a lot of people quit, maybe because they go from being stuck or feeling like their back's up against the wall, and they want more. So then they put their foot out there and they start their own thing. But then they have true intentions behind doing it. Yeah, maybe because they want more flexibility. Yes, maybe because they want to spend more time with their kids or whatever it might be. And then it gets to this point where, especially at the beginning, when you're building something and it's catching momentum, and you do have to do it all. There has to be, you are the face of the business, you are the face of the brand, you are the admin person, the finance person. And it's that breakthrough moment, isn't it? Where it's like, I can see why a lot of new businesses fail,
Yeah.
because they want this sense of freedom, but then they realize actually almost like it's being taken away from them slightly before it's then expanded. So it's like that balance, isn't it?
And I think that is something which feeds into a lot about who I am as a brand, as a person, as a
Yeah.
copywriter.
Right.
Like my tagline is selling with soul, and I work specifically with coaches, well-being entrepreneurs, health practitioners, people in that arena.
Yeah.
A lot of whom are quite afraid of selling. Not well, they might be afraid of selling, or they
Yeah.
feel a bit uncomfortable with selling because they want the impact, and the work they do can be very spiritual, or it can be very
Yes.
meaningful, and not sometimes with sales that doesn't necessarily feel aligned or hand in hand.
Yes.
And when I kind of developed my business and exactly who I wanted to work with, like at the beginning, I was like, oh, I'll write anything.
Yeah, anything. I'll do anything.
And I'll work with anyone, that's fine. But as the business has grown and as it's expanded, I've been very much able to hone down exactly what it is I do as a copywriter and
Yeah.
exactly who it is that I work for. And
Yeah.
I feel like there's so much crap in the online space, like that selling of the idea of becoming a female entrepreneur, an online business owner. Yes, you can have more time freedom, you can have more financial freedom, that's a lovely dream, and it is achievable, but the
Yeah.
reality of it is that it's shown that it's achievable overnight, and it really
Yes.
isn't. You have to put in the hours and the work, especially when it's just you.
Yeah.
Like, if you want to get to that point, and now I'm at a point where I'm only starting to
Mm.
really see a little bit more flexibility in terms of me being able to say no. And a lot of that comes with even more personal development growth, because
Yes. Right. Yeah.
I'm much stronger, and my ethos and who I want to work with is much stronger.
Yeah.
So they're kind of tied hand in hand. But you're talking over 4 years to just start
Start that process.
feeling like I'm getting into that process of the flexibility that I originally craved when I first
Yeah.
started.
Yeah, I think that's so interesting, isn't it? I completely agree with you. There is so much crap online. Like there is so much where people almost sell, and I feel it makes me angry, right? Because there are so many vulnerable people out there who want to escape. And when I say escape, they want to escape what you were saying, what life should look like. And they want to be able to do something for themselves. So, and I almost feel like those people then become vulnerable to the people that are trying to sell you the crap. That, oh yeah, we'll just do this, and then you'll start making six figures by tomorrow and stuff like that. And it's like that's not how it is. It is hard work, but it's incredibly rewarding once
Yeah.
you work through that process, and then you can curate a life that looks exactly the way you want it to. We're not sitting here telling you, oh yes, it's so easy, like I work 10 minutes a day and I'm great. We're not saying that at all. We're saying it is hard work, but equally at the same time there are, like you said, once you've got a tribe around you, or you've got other women who understand it, then they will be able to kind of guide you or say, oh, this works, or I know this person, or that person might be able to help you out. And that's when like they starts to take the burden. I think essentially that's exactly what you're doing. That's the service in a way that you're delivering, because I am no writer. Absolutely. I am not a writer. I can write things down and then read them afterwards. I'm like, oh, wow. But your writing is incredible, and that's almost where you I guess take the burden away from people to a certain, like that, almost that part of the business, because you're working with what, six, and like obviously you're working with a variety of people, but who's, I guess, like who's your sort of niche kind of like person or group that you're working with?
Um, I think spiritual. I'm even going to say magical.
Yeah,
And that is interesting because it's really reflected in my own personal stuff at the minute.
that's amazing.
So, I mean, essentially, when I really started niching down into spiritual coaches and well-being practitioners, so people who were like hypnotherapists and
Yeah,
intuitive practitioners, Reiki healers, things like that. And it was by accident almost, but because I can generally write well, but I can write like on another level well for those
yeah,
people, purely because I've walked the walk, talked the
yep,
talk. I've done the things, I've done the courses, I've read the books,
yeah,
I've had the coaches. I still get coached. I think it's important to have coaches in your
yeah. So
life,
do I. So do I.
constant. But like that spiritual self-development path, I've been walking down for 4 years, and I will always now be walking down it. And I'm always
Yeah,
learning new things. I've learned new things about me in this past week alone, which has been
yeah,
really interesting. But that's what enables me to write really, really well for these people. And I love it because I mean, obviously, what the client wants is important, but they know that I'm very much about no bullshitty type stuff. So
Yes.
most of these clients, most of the bigger clients that I work for, they can write perfectly fine.
Yeah.
It's a time thing. Like they want, if you think about a launch, for example, which is what I specialize in. I specialize in launches for people.
Yeah.
So the amount of writing that goes into that. Sorry, I'll
Yes.
reiterate, for anybody watching this who doesn't know what copywriting is.
Yes, that's probably a good point to be fair.
Yeah, I always forget that because I live and breathe it, but so
Yeah.
many people don't know, and it's really interesting because most of my clients are at least, you know, several years into business,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that's when they realize the importance of messaging.
Yeah.
Like they can write, but they just can't write in a way that's as good as being persuasive and emotive in a storytelling format that doesn't
Yeah.
feel like an icky sell.
Yeah.
Also, it's a time thing. So with a launch, you have so much elements of writing. You think
Yeah,
about,
you do.
you do a free webinar or a masterclass or
Yeah.
a challenge or something. You need an opt-in page for that. You need emails for that.
Yeah.
For people that join, you need sales emails. You need a sales page for the things that you're selling.
Yeah.
You need invite emails if you've already got a mailing list. You want to invite people in. You might have abandoned cart emails. You might have social media campaigns that go alongside that to generate interest and things before you go into the actual sell time. There's so much to write, even changing things like your social media bios or your like Facebook covers and things like that. It's all words, and they're all words that have persuasive elements to them. You know, pretty much most of the stuff that we write in business, especially online, is very much classed as copywriting because it has this element where you're wanting to create connection with people and engagement with people and move them along the line in that terms of that trust, trust stuff. It's buying. So that is essentially what copywriting is. But you think about the amount of stuff then that you write.
You have to do,
Just sit down for a second, even just content alone, like social media content can overwhelm people beyond belief.
Yeah, it can. I've been there. I've 100% been there. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I've got loads of copy to sit here and write. And it can be a lot. So it's like you're a professional in that area. So for someone like me to be able to hand that over to someone like you would be massive. It would be, because you can come from that place of soulful selling where it's not icky and it's not bullshitty and it's not, it's not that, where it's actually really authentic. And I think as well, the thing is as well, you take the time to really understand people's businesses, like really understand them. You have to, right?
I mean, absolutely. Most people think that copywriting, like the job of copywriting, you spend most of your time writing, and that's absolutely not true. Like I spend probably about 50% of my time doing research and 50% of my time writing. Oh, well, maybe then 40% of my time writing, 10% of my time frantically proofreading, checking.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
But a copywriter, a really good copywriter, no one will know that you have one.
Yes.
Because the sales pages you put out there, the emails you send out, the social media posts that you have, they will all sound like you.
Yeah.
But with that element of sales in there. And it's quite a tricky thing to do. Like I've had clients, right? I've sent stuff to clients and they've replied and gone, hang on, did I write this? And I was like, no, I've written it for you. And they was like, because they they've got so many plates spinning and stuff.
Yeah.
They're like, bloody hell, I thought that was me. I thought I'd written that. And I was like, no, that's me. And it's being able to capture the essence of their business and their voice and their language, but just tweak it slightly to fit into that kind of sales thing that they might not want to, or they might be really comfortable with sales.
Yeah.
So, I do have several clients who the last launch we worked on, I think we brought in the client about 120 grand. Just done another one for a smaller company. They brought in about 50 grand. They're bringing in really good money in terms of these launches. But then I also appreciate, as myself, like people can't necessarily afford that. Now, don't get me wrong. Like you can find American copywriters that will charge way more than I charge. I'm
of course, right? There's a way,
person. I charge what I feel comfortable with, not what I should be charging in line with other people. But even that for some people is a stretch. And what I really want to do is help people learn how to do it themselves, at least to start with. And I know it's just another thing to learn in business, but I think something that I've seen a lot over the past 4 years is that when people start their businesses, they go full throttle with like their visuals, like their logos,
Yeah, yeah,
and all that stuff is really nice, and you want to have it right for your business, but they forget about the importance of the words and how much
words.
messaging can have such a huge impact on whether their business grows or doesn't.
Yeah, yeah,
So I'm trying to get newer business owners to kind of join my Facebook group and stuff.
yeah,
But as I'm in there, I can see the development of the
yeah, how they're
students
doing.
in there and how they're growing and how I can see that they're learning and they're changing the way they write
Yeah.
things and stuff, which is really nice to see.
Yeah, you are absolutely a woman on a mission. I take my hat off to you because you are utterly incredible at what you do. I've seen it for proof, and you are amazing. And I know some of the people that we work with, and again, as I watch their stuff come up, I'm like, I bet that's Fiona. I bet. I guess like to strip it back slightly and to go back like quite a few steps. When obviously, because obviously, like you mentioned, obviously you'd had Ted, you had a bit of a mental breakdown. Obviously you went through a divorce, a breakup of a relationship, which is never nice, especially when you've got a young child. I guess like for me, explain a little bit because that must have taken a huge amount of courage and confidence to almost look yourself in the mirror and not recognize yourself. Like it must have taken a point where you got your back up against the wall slightly, and it was like, okay, I actually do want to change all of this, and the person that's going to start with is me. How did you feel about doing that? Because I know I see an awful lot of women who probably get to a point where they don't like what they see, and I mean that from not from an outside perspective. I
Yeah,
mean
yeah.
that from like a life perspective. They don't like what they see, and they want to make change, but they lack a sense of confidence or a sense of self-worthiness. Did you ever feel like that, like when you were kind of like with your back against the wall but wanting to make the break? It's scary, right?
It is super scary. I have to be completely honest with you. Um, I was put on antidepressant medication,
Yeah,
and that gave me enough energy to get out of bed and
yeah,
you know actually have some kind of presence in the world, I suppose. But it also numbed my emotions. And
yeah,
it's really interesting because I think that gave me the balls to
yeah.
think.
Oh,
And it wasn't that I wasn't upset or
no,
crying.
no, 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 no.
I was, but I think it just dimmed it just enough for it to help. Now, it might
Yeah,
have been other things as well, but I always like to be really honest because it's
yeah, of course,
easy for
right?
me to
Yeah.
sit here and go, yeah, I just decided it was enough and I walked out.
No, 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 no. That's not real. That's not
Actually,
real life.
I do think the medication
Yeah,
had an impact. And I was on antidepressants for maybe about 8 months. And then I was able to work myself off them with a lot of the spiritual work and
yeah,
self-development work that I was doing. So I do think that was a huge factor. And I think the other thing was my catalyst being Ted.
yeah.
Obviously, everyone's shit at the fan moments are different.
Of course they are, right?
But with mine being him, and even though I was struggling to be a mum with the postnatal depression,
Mm.
I remember very strongly feeling like I know I'm not happy and that's not going to change. Like I know, like my husband at the time, bless him, we're still really good friends now.
Yeah, yeah.
Like there was nothing as such that he'd done wrong, but we met at a time like after literally my dad was really poorly. He was an alcoholic.
Mm.
And we got together during this period, and a couple of months later he died. And
Yeah,
I think I potentially in hindsight, not that I didn't love my husband at the time because I did love him very much, but
yeah.
I think I almost substituted him
Yeah, I can understand how
and
that would
just and
happen.
started that
Yeah,
process of just
yeah,
falling into stuff. And it's like, oh, okay, well, my dad's gone and he'd split up with his partner and we'd got together, and it was like, oh, well, you might as well move in there here then because there's nowhere else for you to go. And the
yeah,
decision of when you know when you're fully of mental health and you've met someone and it's exciting, but you sit down and you make those decisions as to when you're going to move in
mm.
together or when you're going to do this. A lot of that felt it was taken away, and that wasn't my husband that took that away. Like I want to make
No, 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 no,
not
no,
blaming
no.
him, but because of the circumstances I was in, it was almost just like, oh, okay, I'm just moving here then.
It's almost like maybe it was a case of like a subconscious trauma. Of when I say sub, I'm not trying to dampen obviously what happened, but it's almost like, you know, when you are in a place of trauma or stress, it's easier. How do I put it? I guess easier to attract maybe the wrong people. And that's not to say that your husband was bad or anything like that, but maybe not to so be consciously aware of the decisions you're making if you're in that space.
But I think because of that, when I was looking at myself in the mirror, like certain realizations were happening like this, like what we've just talked about.
Yeah.
Where I thought no amount of like relationship therapy or anything like that is going to make a difference, because I'm
different.
Problem. I'm the problem. I am different. And that realization of I am different, and this isn't what I want. And I don't know what I want, but I know this is not it.
Yeah.
And I just thought, if I carry on, even if I didn't have postnatal depression, like if I got over that and kind of still tried to work at my life as it was, I knew I would continue to be unhappy in my job. I knew I would continue to be unhappy in my relationship. And I didn't want Ted to grow up around arguing. And I didn't want him to grow up around me not being it sounds super corny, but like not being the best version of me.
Of yourself.
I feel like I wanted to show him a world where you choose, a world where everything is possible if you want it to be possible. And I didn't want to see him to see us crying or arguing or fighting or like being miserable going to work or not doing the things that I wanted to do on a weekend, even though I didn't know what those things were at the time.
Right.
Yeah. So I think so it was a twofold thing, I think, which gave me the confidence. I think that there was a slight numbing with the medication stuff. And I think for me, it was my catalyst. And like I said, obviously everyone's catalyst is different. But that introduction to motherhood, that first time of really contemplating someone else's entire future, not just mine, really made me go, I have to do something, and I have to do it now, because I believed that the earlier I did it, the less potential traumatic impact it might have on him.
I think that's absolutely incredible, like that you did that. Absolutely incredible, because it takes an enormous amount of strength. And yes, okay, you said obviously the medication you're on and things like that probably dampened the emotion, but there was obviously still emotion there. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't like
super. Like I so much just upset, and but then conversations with my poor ex-husband, because he just couldn't understand why all of a sudden I hated everything and everything was wrong. There were many times, like over the next year and a half after that, where I was so tempted to just go, oh, fuck, I've made a mistake. Sorry. But I've made a mistake. Like, it would be so much easier to go back than continuing this path that I'm on. Have those down days where I'd be like, I can't do this anymore. Like, it would just be easier to go back, to apologize, to try and make things right. And I didn't. God, I didn't, because it was the right thing. But and then like my mum and female friendships, and a new kind of thirst and curiosity about things, I think,
about life.
Yeah.
You are actually incredible, Fiona. You really, really are. I know obviously you've talked a little bit about, like, we've sort of touched a little bit on spirituality and obviously selling with soul. And I'm quite a spiritual person. I'm a big believer in energy and angels and guidance. And I know you're quite a spiritual person as well, aren't you? I guess my question for you would be, how does that look like in your life? Like, what does it sort of show up as? And has anything particular happened to you? Or what was the beginning? What was the beginning part?
So the beginning part, I'd say, was the fact that I'd met this friend again who was a life coach. So she was starting to talk to me about things and introduce things that I just didn't know about. Again, we're talking about an entire world that exists.
You don't even know about.
Until you don't know until you know.
Yeah,
it's exactly the same as online businesses with spirituality, and whatever format that takes for people, because it's super different for everybody.
Oh, it's so different for everybody.
They're just starting to hear certain words and like learn about certain things. And she gave me the big law of attraction book, The Secret, which I know lots of people have read.
Loads of people read that.
Now, I actually hate that book with a passion.
I've definitely I do agree with you on that one. Like I don't hate it, but I definitely think
Okay, maybe that's a
it
really
has some
strong
big
word.
parts.
But I think it's not a very good book, to be honest. There is, and now obviously we're talking 4 years later down the line, and I've done a lot more kind of research and stuff around it, and I don't think it's very helpful to a lot of people.
Yeah, so I think that's it.
However, at that time, it was a spark. It was
Yeah.
an introduction to this other world that
Well,
existed, but I didn't know existed. And that was the start. And then I did start to consume quite a lot. And a lot of them really started out as like self-help books. So
yeah.
things like Vex King's High Vibes was one of my
Oh,
favorite
brilliant book.
first read. And like Atomic Habits.
Yeah.
That one of my favoriteest books of all time, it's still one of my favorites, is called The Untethered Soul by Michael Singer. That's a really, really great one. It's quite heavy going, so
Yeah.
you need to be quite into it to
Yeah,
kind of,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
but if you are, then it's a really good one to read. It's not like a beginner one, so I wouldn't suggest that if you were just beginning. And over the past so many years, like I said, you know, books, podcasts,
Yeah.
like just caught little mini courses, stuff like that. And I've been learning different things. I think the thing that I've really pulled out is that thing of that everybody is different and nothing works for everyone. And I've only just really kind of accepted that.
Yeah.
It was quite so for quite an example of this, for example, right? So one of the books I read was Miracle Morning.
Oh, yeah, yeah, I've read that.
Yeah, and it's a good book.
That book.
And at the same time, there seemed to be a lot of things either on my feed or whatever course I was doing at the time or whatever, where people like, right, morning routine, you need to have this set out, you need to do this, you need to have a gratitude thing, you need to have a physical thing, you need these certain 5 things that you need to have
Yeah.
morning. And I was beating myself up constantly because I just couldn't do it.
Because you didn't have time. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's because I had a chuffing like 6-month-old baby,
Yeah.
right? So morning to me wasn't the same as other people's morning.
Yes.
No. But for such a long time, I felt like I was failing or not doing the right things
Yes.
or knowing the things I should be doing, but I wasn't implementing
Yeah.
them. And therefore I wasn't like working hard enough at spirituality, or I wasn't working hard enough at
Yeah.
whatever. And what I really, and it sounds simple to say that obviously different things work for different people and you have to find your thing, but actually when you're learning, I think it's very easy, and it's not just spirituality, it can be with anything.
Yeah.
When you're bombarded by guru information,
Yeah.
you should be doing this, you should be doing this, it's bollocks. it's
Yeah.
it's not right for everybody, and of course those things might have worked for those people, but
Yeah.
there's such a plethora, buffet of tools, techniques, resources
Yeah.
out there. You've got to be curious and learn and go out and try different things and
Yeah.
work out what works for you. And then you create your own little toolbox of things.
Yeah, I completely.
And that has changed in the instance. So like I really didn't feel like I could have a morning routine. So my morning routine was I would have a glass of water.
Yeah.
And I would stretch. And that was it. Like it was all I
Yeah.
could manage. And like even now, even though Ted's 4, like, so I still have my glass of water, and me and Ted do a quick 5-minute kids meditation together. Now,
Love
some
that.
mornings it'll be like, Mummy, I don't want to do that. And I'm like,
Yeah,
oh,
exactly. He's a kid. He's 4.
he's not
What
going
they
to
do.
play. So then I just think, okay, that's fine. I'll do my 5-minute meditation later on when he's gone to school then.
Yeah.
Just trying to work it round.
Wow.
Mum, being a business owner, being a house owner, like everything, and trying to
Yeah.
find out what works for me. And learning about new things, because like I said, like even just in the space of the last month has been an interesting journey of realizing certain things, but even just this last week I've been doing certain things. So like I would definitely say that I would class myself as a witch.
Yeah.
It's not a word that I ever felt comfortable saying at all, and I'm very specifically what I would call a green witch. But
That doesn't surprise me that you say that.
but what it means to me is that I am a person who is innately connected with nature,
Yes.
and how I use nature and give back to it. We give each other.
Yes, it's an equal partnership.
And how that relationship makes me more a spiritual person.
Yeah.
And obviously I use herbs and things in rituals and stuff, which is where I suppose the
Yeah.
word witch comes from. But that's very specific to me. It's very nature based. It's very
Yes.
green witch, for want of a better word, I suppose. But that's just something quite new. That first of all, acceptance of that, and actually
Yeah.
what that looks like to me, because witch means very different
Oh,
things.
very different things to very different people. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
But actually, the more I delve into it, the more I feel that word is right.
yeah.
It's just how I view it, and the things that I do, the practices I do, the meditation
Yeah.
I do, the rituals I do, that all
Yeah.
feed into that. And so that's just a fairly new recent thing, but it's just showing how you grow and develop and change as you go on your spiritual journey, and each path is different. I read I'm just gonna have to read you this post that I'd found, sorry,
No, it's
because
fine.
this was the epiphany
Share it with
for me.
us.
And I saw a post and it said, witches call it a spell, Christians call it prayer, spiritualists call it manifestation,
Yeah.
atheists call it the placebo effect, scientists call it quantum physics. Everyone's arguing over its name, but no one's denying its existence. And that for me was like, yeah, it's
That is
we
powerful.
have this spirituality, we have this thing. Some people more than others,
Of
we're all at different
course.
levels. We all believe different things, but the innate essence of it
Yes.
is the same thing for everyone, but we just view it in different ways. And that's part of the beauty of your spirituality journey, is working out who you, and I'm still doing that 4 years, 4 years
Yeah.
down the line, I left because I didn't know who I was.
Yeah.
And I definitely thought after a year, okay, I feel much happier with who I am.
Yeah.
Then a year later, I was like, oh my God, no, I now I feel really comfortable with who I am. 4 years later, I'm like, oh my God, I've just learnt new things. And now I
You
feel really comfortable. And that will just continue growing and change.
100% that will. Oh my gosh,
And
doesn't
that's
it?
what's
Yeah,
exciting.
and I think that's what makes it so exciting. I'm exactly the same as you. I started my journey, and again, kind of on the same sort of terms. Probably about 6 or 7 years ago, like just before Willow was born, and I was a completely different person to the person that I am now. And I think, yeah, again, my obviously everyone's catalyst is different, right? Everybody's is different. Everyone's, you like you said, shit his fan or whatever. But it starts to kind of set off a process when you're willing to explore, when you're willing to start asking questions, when you're willing to do work on yourself, when you're willing to pick up the book and read it and just push yourself a little bit more and learn a little bit more. You then become happier and happier and happier and happier. And it's and like that post said, you can name it anything you want. It doesn't have to be, right, okay, I'm spiritual, oh, okay, I believe in the universe, or now I believe in God. It can have whatever name it wants to, but it's almost like having that incredible belief within yourself as well, that actually you can get the tools to learn about yourself and learn about the world and what is around us and how you want to live your life and how you want to live it on your terms. And once you start learning and growing in that way, actually life looks so different. Because I'm the same as you. Like a year afterwards, I was like, oh my gosh, like I'm so much happier because I've learned this and I've learned this and this is really exciting, this is really cool has happened to me, and I've met this person and now I've got a tribe. And then again a year later I was like, oh my God, I've now got all this. So it's that catalyst of events that starts going. But it does sometimes unfortunately take a moment of like, yeah, your back's up against the wall and you're like, I don't even know who I am anymore. I don't know who I am. I don't know what I want. I just almost like I felt quite numb, like just like stuck in a rat race, and I just felt a bit numb. So I completely agree with you. You are utterly incredible. So I guess like with 2025 fast approaching, what is on the agenda for business?
Business. I probably need to come speak to you. I really I do. I need to sort out my passive income stuff. So like,
yes,
as a service provider, there's a limit.
Yeah, of course.
And I'm pretty much like fully booked all the time, which is lovely. But yeah, you kind of hit that level.
You do hit a ceiling, yeah.
And I've been spending a lot of time the back end of this year doing a lot of process and admin sorting out. So I've moved to a new platform fairly recent-ish, where I want to really kind of build stuff. I'm in the process of doing a bit of a rebrand, which incorporates a lot more of this spirituality stuff within my brand. So yeah, I think I want to, that's kind of the focus for next year, is that I want to build some more passive income stuff, because then I want to have a little bit of time to develop my coaching business, which is Urban Roots. So that's kind of really focused in on this kind of earth connection stuff and nature. And it'll be a real slow burner, but I'm happy with that because I want it to be right. And I want it to feel kind of really, you know, positive and light me up.
Yeah, make it feel authentic as well, right?
Yeah,
exactly. And I think sometimes when we're trying to grow something quickly and fast, we want to make money quickly or whatever it might be, we want the end result quickly. Actually, then we lose the authenticity behind it, of actually the reason why we're doing something.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I said, that you kind of lose sight of
you do. You can quickly.
Why you wanted to do it in the first
you
place.
can.
And obviously, like, I have a business which is really successful and is there to support me, and I will still be working in that because I
absolutely
do love it and I enjoy it very much. But there's a part that's missing. And so I'm just going to start to develop that a little bit further. So they're probably the two things that I'm going to be looking at in 2020.
Exciting. I know obviously also you've got a Facebook group, haven't you, where you share loads of tips and tricks and writing stuff for entrepreneurs. I'm part of it. I cannot recommend it more highly. So if there is anybody that is kind of in this process at the moment, am I able to share a link so they can join?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely free. And there's lots of posts in there. I do little mini trainings.
Yeah, you do.
Also just try and really encourage people to think about writing. So we do journal prompt stuff sometimes. We do like word association games, and they're all designed to try and get you thinking about words in a different way and expand your writing skills and stuff like that. So it's not just necessarily focused specifically on copy, but just writing your business and being able to share your story.
Okay, fabulous. I will definitely add that underneath this live. And I guess the last question that I want to ask you is, if there is somebody out there who was probably you, 4 or 5 years ago, probably feeling the way that you did, what would be your one tip that you would give them if they wanted change but didn't know where to start?
Oh, that's a difficult one. Like, one tip.
I think actually, to be fair, I think you've already said it. And because you were obviously talking about how you started to pick up books and you started to read and expand your mind. And
I think curiosity and learning is such a huge part of our existence, you know. So I think we lose sight of that, and that playness as well. You know, think about when you're a child and like Ted just loves reading, he loves playing, he loves learning new things. He's like a sponge, he just soaks it all up. And he's really excited for it. And I think sometimes the older we get, we lose that excitement. And I think when we start to get into bits of, you know, the ruts and things of life. So anything that you can do to just try and encourage that learning, that curiosity, that playfulness, is really good. But then I am a writer, so I have to say, like, for me, journaling is just a big thing. And even if you don't know what it is, right, just get a piece of paper and write. Just don't think about it. Don't worry about spelling. Don't worry about grammar. Just write. How are you feeling? Like, I think a lot of people go, oh yeah, I journal. And what they do is they have like a diary. So they're like, you know, like when we were 13, or like, I went to the park and I kissed Tom, who I really like, or whatever, you know. But that's not journaling. So a lot of people say they journal and they're like, okay, well, today, you know, I did my morning routine and then I had client calls, they went really well. And it's kind of a bit like a bum of the day. Journaling is about your feelings. You don't even need to write what you did that day. I mean, but if there's been a thing that set you off, that's made you really happy or made you really sad, then obviously it's helpful to say this happened, and so you can kind of look back and track it and things like that. But ultimately, it's about your feelings and just getting it out on paper. You don't even need to share it with anyone.
No, you don't.
Release of getting it out of your head and out of your body, that in itself can sometimes be the answer. Like it can be cathartic enough to help you. And if it's not, because you're in a darker place, then just getting it out will help you explain to other people. Because that's one thing that I really struggled with. Like, people would ask me, like, how are you feeling and stuff? And I was like, I can't articulate how I feel because I'm contradictory constantly. I want to be around people and I hate people and I do and it's all the time. So like writing these things out if I did want to share them with someone, it was a lot easier because I could spill like the word easier down on paper than I could articulate it to people. But then also to look back and keep a track of things and be like, hang on a minute, I went for a walk today and I felt loads better. Look at that journal entry after I went for a walk in nature. Okay, there's a thing here. Walking in nature clearly has a thing. And when you're in the situation, you don't necessarily see the things that make you feel.
No, you don't. That's so true.
So just keeping it, it's like a log or a track of your emotions and see what things helps and what things don't and things like that. So that would be my other tip, I guess. I obviously had to be writing.
Absolutely, of course. Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining me. I honestly, I mean, I know we're really good friends anyway, but I could talk to you for hours as well because your professionalism and your knowledge and your skill is unbelievable. It honestly is. And I do have emails from people sometimes, and I'm like, I think Fiona wrote that. I really do. But thank you so much. I will add the link to your Facebook group. I love you very much. Thank you for joining us today. And
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, my darling. Take care, sweetheart. Bye.
Bye.